The old America, that's got to be the Democrats' part of the bargain. Stop coming up with radically new and often terrible ideas and then in the next breath insist there be no debate about any of it. That if you don't see it right away and go along, you're bad, stupid, and deplorable. As if you were saying, duh, 2 + 2 = 5, isn't that obvious? Yeah, it's obvious you can't add. You can't just say math is racist, queers for Palestine, looting is cool, healthy at any weight. If the men's football team played the women's team, it would be a tie.
The Democrats can't seem to catch a break, and Bill Maher thinks he knows exactly why. On Real Time with Bill Maher, the comic-turned-cultural critic tore into his own side with surgical precision, breaking down why he believes the party keeps losing its grip on American voters. With the midterms creeping closer and 2028 already on the horizon, Maher warned bluntly, if the DNC doesn't rip up its old playbook and start fresh, it's headed for another political crash landing. According to him, recycling the same tired messages is like showing up to a new fight with worn-out gloves. So, buckle up, hit subscribe, and let's jump straight into what he said, unfiltered and unapologetic.
I don't think most liberals are insane, but neither do they make it clear they disapprove of the ones who are, and their cowardice in not marginalizing their own crazies has been their downfall. I couldn't get Neil deGrasse Tyson, a genius scientist and preeminent scientific voice in the media, to agree that it was ridiculous for Scientific American and The Atlantic to be claiming that separating sports by sex doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. Actually, it makes perfect sense. And it's obvious that it does.
Maher doesn't waste a second getting to the point. In his eyes, Democrats aren't just missing the mark on messaging, they're promoting ideas that feel disconnected from basic logic and everyday reality. When politicians start pushing narratives that seem to rewrite science or common sense, he argues, they lose the very voters they need to convince. And what shocks him even more is how respected thinkers can sometimes help legitimize the noise. Names like Neil deGrasse Tyson, famous for championing science literacy, occasionally get dragged into ideological debates that mix politics and science in ways that leave viewers more confused than informed. Maher's bottom line? When a party spends more time fighting cultural turf wars than addressing kitchen table issues, it's no mystery why the polls stall and enthusiasm evaporates.
And there's a lot of stuff like that on the left. And when conservatives see it, they say, I'm sorry, we're just not going to go along with reinventing society, often pointlessly, even if we have to cancel democracy to do it. That's what they're saying. They see gender as only a construct and sex is assigned at birth, and they say, we're not doing that. Transing kids by self-diagnosis with no age limit, no parental notification, and no acknowledgement of social contagion, not doing it. Asylum now covers any reason for anyone to come to America, not doing it.
He goes deeper, calling out what he sees as the root of the problem, ideas that challenge long-established facts and values in ways that feel rushed or forced. According to him, when the party's megaphone centers on redefining sensitive topics like gender and identity without broader public understanding, it sparks division, not unity. Maher also points to the heated battles over youth gender policies, how questions of parental rights, consent, and medical decisions have turned into new front lines in America's culture war. The danger, he says, is that these topics are no longer French. They've hit the mainstream, framing how millions view the party itself. In his view, every time Democrats pour energy into hyper-cultural debates instead of the economy, fairness, or governance, they risk alienating moderates who might otherwise be in their corner, and that costs votes, plain and simple.
Natural immunity doesn't count anymore. Whiteness is toxic. Penises in women's prisons. Welcoming the intifada. We're not doing it. And so, folks, if we are ever going to get back to the old America, that's got to be the Democrats' part of the bargain. Stop coming up with radically new and often terrible ideas and then in the next breath insist there be no debate about any of it.
Then Maher pivots from critique to advice. He urges Democrats to step outside their ideological bubble and bring real debate back to the table. True strength, he says, doesn't come from silencing disagreement, but from standing your ground in it. More and more voters, he warns, see the party as allergic to pushback, quick to label people instead of listening to them. That creates an echo chamber, loud on the inside, empty outside. It fires up the base, but drives away independents who crave open, honest discussion. If the party wants to regain trust, Maher insists it must prove it isn't afraid of dissent. Confidence means engaging with critics, not canceling them. The cure, in his words, is transparency, tough conversation, and a little courage to face uncomfortable truths.
If you don't see it right away and go along, you're bad, stupid, and deplorable. As if you were saying, duh, 2 + 2 = 5. Isn't that obvious? Yeah, it's obvious you can't add. You can't just say math is racist, queers for Palestine, looting is cool, healthy at any weight. If the men's football team played the women's team, it would be a tie. You can't just say shit. And
Lately, the rhetoric from some corners of the left has intensified so much that even lifelong liberals like Maher are speaking out. What disturbs him most is the idea that certain viewpoints are no longer open for debate. They're presented as mandatory beliefs. He argues that when disagreement becomes a moral crime instead of a chance for dialogue, democracy starts to suffocate. Critics add that this environment leaves people afraid to question anything, worried they'll be shamed or ostracized for having a different take. Instead of open-minded discussion, it can feel like enforced conformity. Maher's frustration cuts deep. Persuasion, not pressure, is what changes minds. Once debate disappears, voters don't feel represented, they feel shut out, and that isolation shows up later at the ballot box.
Democrats today have gone out of their way to post messages on social media about the current Trump administration and what's happening to American lives. The problem is they're all literally saying the same damn thing. Don't believe me? Check it out.
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
Shh, that ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse.
Inflation
Not
is
better.
getting
The prices
worse.
of grocery,
Not better.
gas,
Cost of
household essentials.
Now you see why Stephen A. Smith was in the polls as a presidential candidate? You see what I'm talking about? You see that idiocy right there? You talk about something, people being toned.
Sports broadcaster and analyst Stephen A. Smith agrees, but adds a twist. He thinks Democrats make a strategic mistake every time they obsess over Donald Trump. Constant outrage loses all impact when it becomes predictable. People tune out. Smith reminds viewers that Democrats were demonizing Trump long before he ever won in 2016, and it didn't stop him. What puzzles him most is that the same strategy continues today. Instead of painting an inspiring vision for America, Democratic leaders often default to anti-Trump shouting. Smith's message is clear. Voters don't just want fury, they want leadership, ideas, and reasons to hope.
Hell, would 22 Democratic senators be literally echoing the same thing and think that would resonate with the American people? All it shows is that the same fabric of our democracy is unchanging in the eyes of some of these officials, and as a result, the constituency they represent, which is why Donald Trump is in office. What, do I have to come up to Capitol Hill and give you lessons? Seriously, you don't get it? All you did, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Chuck Schumer. Let's all get together. Let's put this in a prompter, and all together, albeit in separate rooms, we'll grab a microphone and say the same damn thing. And that's what's going to resonate with the American people. And then you wonder why you're no longer in power.
He takes it further by calling out what he calls the performance politics of the DNC. According to Smith, too much of party leadership feels staged, flashy headlines, rehearsed sound bites, and symbolic drama, while everyday Americans wrestle with inflation, rent, and job insecurity. People can spot the difference between sincerity and showmanship, he argues. When leaders act more than they listen, trust erodes. Smith's advice is simple. Less theater, more truth. The public doesn't need perfect optics. They need real action and authenticity that can be seen, not just tweeted.
Chuck Schumer and the typical politicians, oh, inflation is high. Oh, look at them pointing the fingers at the migrants. Oh, look at them blaming immigration. They don't care about you. Oh, by the way, look, they don't care about you. Well, why would you bother people from the LGBTQ community? Why would you bother folks with transgender and all this? Why would you do that? That is what the Democrats say. That's what most politicians would say. Here's Trump. They're pieces of shit. They don't give a about you. It's rigged. They've hoodwinked you all the time. They think you're a freaking joke. They give you the thing anytime they want to. Here's Trump. Them. They ain't worth shit.
Smith also contrasts Donald Trump's raw communication style with the DNC's cautious one. Like him or not, Trump speaks directly, identifies a problem, and projects intensity. That makes him appear decisive to millions of voters hungry for straight talk. Smith says that's political currency today. Authenticity. Meanwhile, Democrats often sound scripted, worried about every headline and hashtag. That carefulness, he warns, reads as insecurity. When leaders speak like they have nothing to hide, people listen. When it sounds rehearsed, people roll their eyes.
And do you know what his followers say? Yeah, that's how we want you talking to those politicians who've been stealing our money all of these years. It's not what he says. It's how he says it. He does it with vitriol and venom to show a disrespect to politicians who the public have no respect for because they feel they've been hoodwinked by those same politicians. He's using it to separate himself from the cesspool that is Capitol Hill. And how does Capitol Hill respond? By showing them they're still Capitol Hill.
Smith argues that Maher understands what Washington too often misses, the public's exhaustion from professional politics. Maher's blunt honesty, his ability to poke both parties, gives viewers what they crave, someone willing to call power to account without fear. Smith thinks that's why audiences respond. They see courage, not calculation. By contrast, the DNC often looks cautious, hesitant to risk backlash. But in moments of distrust, boldness wins attention and respect. The bigger lesson is simple. Americans may not agree on everything, but they can spot genuine conviction when they see it, and they reward it.
Did you see me on The View Tuesday afternoon? Did you see when they said, we don't believe there's a Trump mandate? I said, oh, really? Did you see the former press secretary for the White House come on? I think Stephen A. is wrong. I don't believe what he said is correct. Donald Trump has the lowest approval ratings in the first month or so, or the 2 months of a presidency in American history. Oh, really? But didn't he win all the swing states? Didn't his popularity elevate within 89% of the counties in the United States of America? Didn't his popularity elevate within the Black community, the Hispanic community, and the young voters?
Together, the warnings from Bill Maher and Stephen A. Smith send a loud message to Democratic leaders: you're losing connection. Both men, from totally different worlds, point to the same flaw. Voters want truth, solutions, and backbone, not ideology, theatrics, or endless outrage. Meanwhile, Trump's lasting pull, in their opinion, comes from projecting decisiveness and authenticity. Like him or not, he looks like a man who means what he says. The takeaway is blunt. Until Democrats start listening, engaging openly, and earning back trust, they're playing a losing game. People can tell the difference between sincerity and strategy, and if that doesn't change, the next chapters at the ballot box could look a lot like the last. And that wraps today's breakdown. If you like this deep dive, tap that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to subscribe. More fearless, fact-driven analysis is coming up next.